Chapter 10. I sat on the deck of the tiny dancer watching the stupid ducks for about 15 minutes, and then I did what I always do when I feel like my head is about to explode. I ran. Running is the only thing I've ever really liked to do. Sometimes at Lincoln, I look at the kids on the track team or the cross country team on the day of the meet. They've got their $100 running shoes, their $50 running shorts, their bottles of Gatorade, and their energy bars, but I'd beaten all of them in elementary school, and I still figured I could beat them. They had a softness to them, in their eyes, a softness that made me believe that I could gut it out at the end against them and take them, if I ever got the chance. Finish strong, my dad always told me, finish strong. That day I ran my normal route. I started by heading east on Seaview Avenue toward the Ballard Locks. For the first mile or so, my mind was buzzing like a chainsaw. I had conversations with Melissa Watts and Brent Miller and Mr. Arnold and my dad, but by the time I reached the locks, my mind shut off just the way it always does, just like it always does. Instead of thinking while I ran, I was just running. Through the locks, up the hill, and over the footbridge to Magnolia, one foot after the other. At the end of the footbridge, I stopped for a minute and looked out. A Coast Guard cutter was going through the locks, headed from Lake Union toward Puget Sound. Some herons were flying from their nests above the railroad tracks out toward the water. I watched for a couple of minutes and then I ran back the same way I'd come, through the locks, then along Seaview Avenue to Pier B. I kept going, past the marina offices and out to Golden Gardens Park. At Meadow Point, I cut over to the beach and ran in the sand toward North Beach. At the spot where the beach turns north is a weather-beaten maple tree that seems to grow sideways right out of the rocks. My mom always said it had to be the toughest tree in the world. I don't know how it gets the nutrients to stay alive, or why it doesn't blow over in the windstorms that come every winter, but somehow it survives. I kept going until I reached that maple, touched it for luck, and then headed back. When I reached Pier B, I looked at my watch. I'd run 7 miles in a little over 40 minutes. I went onto the boat, grabbed some clean clothes and a towel from the cabin, and headed back up the ramp. In the parking lot across from Pier B is an L-shaped utility room with lockers, a washer and dryer, toilets, and some shower stalls. It's open only to people who have a boat in the marina. I stuck my key into the lock, turned the handle, and stepped inside. As usual, it was empty. I walked past the lockers and the washing machines, turned right, and entered the shower area. There are 3 stalls. I took the one farthest back. For the next 20 minutes, I let the water wash away the sweat and dirt of the day. After 20 minutes, the water slowly changed from hot to warm. Before it turned cold, I stepped out, toweled myself dry, and put on clean clothes. Then I went back to the boat. I had 6 hours to kill before I could flick off the lights and call it a day. I waited until it was almost 7 before I heated up a can of tomato soup and made a grilled cheese sandwich. After I'd cleaned the dishes and put them away, I watched Fear Factor and Cops on TV. When that got too stupid, I switched off the television and turned on the radio. There are kids at school who live for music. I wish I were that way. I wish I could find some station that would make an hour or two go or 3 go by, but I can't. Around 9 o'clock, I left the boat and walked the length of the marina. I like to walk after it gets dark because it's quiet then. The sidewalks are empty and the nightclubs haven't gotten going. It was after 11 o'clock when I finally climbed into my berth, and my dad was still out drinking. The wind was up, making the boat rock back and forth, and my mind would rock back and forth with it. One minute I'd want him to disappear from my life forever, just like the next I'd panic at the thought of being alone in the world. I don't know when I finally went to sleep. When the alarm went off at 6:30, my dad was snoring away in his berth. I didn't know whether I was glad to see him there or whether I wished he hadn't come back. I closed my eyes and lay back. I thought about skipping school, but if I did, I'd end up hanging around the boat waiting for him to start drinking. So at 7:15, I was dragging myself up 61st toward Lincoln High.